Hello everybody, I hope you are all having wonderful days and welcome to virtual Tam'S Sunday Club. Thank you so much for having me here as part of the event. My name is Imogen Stirling. I am a poet, spoken word poet specifically, theatre maker and musician, and I am delighted to be sharing a selection of poems for you. I've picked quite a varied selection which I'll talk us through as we go through them. Let's get started. I thought I would open with some pieces from my debut collection, this little book, #Hypocrisy. The book came out in 2019, but it was also a live show which debuted at the Fringe and then toured up until the pandemic. So it's quite nice to be able to revisit a few of these pieces. The show is about identity, really. Identity, belonging or not belonging, travel, and othering, I suppose. And throughout it all, it looks at the sort of subjective compassion that we frequently exercise as a society. It is funny. It's not all bleak. So I thought I would share a few pieces from this, starting with a poem called Exile. So Exile comes really close to the start of the book, and it's talking about, I had just left university at this point and decided to go travelling on a very extended sort of street music and travelling tour, which ended up lasting about 18 months. And this book is generally a reflection on that time and the things that I learned and the things that I didn't learn from it. So Exile is an introduction to that feeling of being abroad, somewhere new, and the identity that you might want to craft for yourself while you were there. It goes like this. Standing by the side of the road, cold fingers turned numb from holding this piece of wind-tattered cardboard so long, my plans at the mercy of this handcrafted signage of hope, so kindly asking for transport to Frankfurt, to Paris, Geneva, or even this time just 20 miles down the street for a fresh try at this. I never liked hitching a lift. It feels degrading, like I'd much rather pay the extra for a better way to get there, but it's good to be authentic. I tell myself, keep it rough, keep it tough, love the vagabond vibes. Yet my rides keep passing and passing with gazes averted. This backpack is hurting my shoulders. I have not eaten for hours. I am in need of a shower, and though it's clear no one's stopping, because we've too much to carry, it allows me to wallow in my fantasy of banishment, put the day down to character enhancement, exaggerate a sob story adequate to guarantee a top-performing post on my top-performing blog. It kind of worked out as I wanted. Wonderful Exile, which was the name of the music duo I was travelling as a part of. Wonderful Exile was a meditated cover basis name of adventure come melancholy, danger come safety, the vibrant migrant turned Instagram pretty. It didn't make me feel discomfort at the time, too consumed in the glamour of diaspora. And how I basked in the fantasy of self-imposed exile, of temporary exile, of wonderful exile, of come home whenever you choose kind of exile. Obviously, the hypocrisy was lost on me. My phone's vibration declares some message from home, a reminder that I am by no means alone, and though I'm shorter on euros than I'd like to be, the emergency credit card awarded by my family is guaranteed that I will never go hungry nor homeless, and though this life on the road had its moments of lonesome, there never was a time I did not feel welcome. No, rather than displaced, every place offered itself as a new abode for my taking. Gifted long-term stay in Amsterdam, Berlin, Montpellier, it became an effort to stay away from a home base. So, cradled in the strong, muscled arms of my passport, I passed through countries without a second glance. Borders melted in the distance, oblivious to privilege. I thought surely everyone must live like this. So that was Exile from #hypocrisy. I'm going to skip a little bit on now, a little further in the book, and take us to a piece called Hipster, which really is, as the name suggests. I talk a lot in the sort of the pages between about what it meant to be different when I was abroad, how I capitalised on the things that made me different in order to be more successful as a street performer, but then look at the fact that we prefer some types of different to other types of different, and questioning why that might be. Hipster is now about returning home to the UK and learning that a trend, a craze of being different had enveloped my city. So this is Hipster. Everybody wants to be a hipster. I come home, difference taken over, and I adore it. The bearded baristas, the hashtag heroes, the craft beer, the matcha, the smashed avocados, the tattoos, the typewriters, gluten-free dieters, Instagram worshippers. Everybody wants to be a hipster. I come home, difference taken over. Time for my go at breaking this mold. I dye my hair, I get the piercings, I start writing poetry, learn how to tarot read, know which wine is which and which coffee to ditch, and I think I could get used to living like this. Everybody wants to be the most hipster. I come home, difference taken over and grown addictive. Whose beard is the longest, whose man bun the tightest, who's the best red, knows their Hamlet from Titus. Don't know what the goal is, but we're all chasing it, topping the craze and the craze and the craze, and it's all competition, postmodern ambition. It's all a distraction, isn't it? Because something is missing amidst it. We inflate the gravity of this dress-up game. We engage the safe space to exercise difference, to learn to talk, recite and proffer, but not to offer any real substance. Seems unconstructive, seems overindulgent, seems underwhelming, seems empty-headed, seems where is the empathy? When we resort to trending hashtags to mitigate apathy, seems appearance may have superseded moral integrity. That was Hipster from #hypocrisy. I'm going to skip right to the end of the book now. A lot happens in the interim, but I thought I would just skip to the very final poem, actually, which is called It's Okay. The book tackles a lot of heavy feeling, serious issues, but it was really important to me that there was a note of optimism and hope and potential running through it all. All is not lost. Humankind can still be redeemed, and I hope to summarise that in this final poem called It's Okay. It's okay to feel completely overwhelmed. It's okay to feel everything sometimes and nothing at others. It's okay to want to turn off from it all one day until the next, when guilt grips and you scream, not in my name, and the conflict rips at you. It's okay to want to hide from the news, want to climb into bed, want to drink, to run, to close your eyes, to feel like a tiny speck of nothing because you're made to feel like a tiny speck of nothing in the face of it all. It's okay For what is people power if not the collective behaviour of 1,000 specks of nothing? You are doing okay. You are doing okay. Just stay mindful. In a world constructed primarily from innocence, retain perspective. In a world where you are handed the platform of privilege, use it to reject the fallacies and retain perspective. In a world where children had to protect their names by creating Not My Islam, retain perspective. In a world where people are forced to your shores seeking a hand, not bringing hostility, retain perspective. In a world where the personal is political, it is inevitable that power lies in the individual. And when you have been born with more power than many, there must be no question that you retain perspective. For there is no room left for botched excuses or hidden truths. When you retain perspective, you reclaim direction. We are near the extent of pretending bewilderment. The time is imminent to think independent of influence, to see without blindfold hindrance. After all, the answer is quite simple. View people as people. When you truly do so, there is no space for ignorance, intimidation, or prejudice. When you view all people as people, return to the basics, then lead with the basics. This uncluttered vision will instigate change, and that is entirely true. So that was It's Okay from #Hypocrisy. And that concludes our little dive into this collection. I hope you enjoyed reading a few or hearing a few of its highlights. So I thought I would move on next, sort of chronologically. The tour of #Hypocrisy ended and the pandemic descended, which obviously was a very strange time, but did leave some space for writing throughout it. And one thing that I did do was write a few short poems for friends of mine who were feeling overwhelmed or stressed or generally anxious about all that was going on. So I thought I would share a short sort of trio, I guess, of them just now. They're just short pieces, but have a kind of connection running through them, as I'm sure you'll hear. So this first little piece is called Today I Looked at a Daffodil and Nothing Changed. Today I spent 15 minutes looking at a daffodil, knelt on the near dry grass and let dew sink through tights too thin for this weather. I looked at its trumpet face, its delicate frills, its thick petals like sliced sunshine. Unremarkable in many ways, still, I studied it. 15 minutes of deliberate ignorance, shut off from daily horror, not waiting on bulletins like bait. And you know, nothing changed. My absence caused no panic. I took comfort in hiatus with a flower, and everything was fine. Next up, if I can find it, it's called I Woke Up with a Weight on My Chest. I woke up this morning with a weight on my chest. Nothing new. In a week fraught with tension, days have been leaden, heavy. I woke up this morning with a weight on my chest, felt it stretch, sigh, dig in claws, that bit too hard for comfort. My cat stood, arched, and resumed, making nest on my chest. I had to smile. Nothing's changed for him. When the stress of it all made me cry, he still shrieked angrily for food. Nothing's changed for him. When my hand, still damp from tears, reached to him for warmth, He rolled and turned his back on me. Nothing's changed for him. When I curled on the sofa with a book for a moment of respite, he curled inside my knees, same as always. Nothing's changed for him. I have to smile. There are constants in the chaos. Mine is small and black and feisty and wild. He is the weight on my chest that reminds my heart is still pumping and that life still goes on. And for our final of the trio, this piece is called There Have Been Better Days. Better days have been. Days where the air did not hang weighted with unholy trepidation and we did not wait on bulletins like bait. Yes, better days have been. But still, today, I saw a woman rest her arm on a stranger's hand and say it's okay. Today, I got a phone call from an old friend who just wanted to check in. Today, I watched 3 artists stream their work and the audience was together. Today, I passed time looking at a daffodil just because I could. Today, I know there have been better days, but there are moments of peace within the madness and kindness in the fear. Better days will come, and we will have learned and loved and helped, and we will be okay. So that was a trio of 3 little pick-me-up type pieces for friends who were feeling the weight of it all, as I am sure we all were in various ways. Thank you so much for listening to me so far. I'm going to conclude with one final kind of longer piece. Something that the strangeness of the pandemic did allow time for was working on my upcoming show and book, Love the Sinner. Love the Sinner will be a live show premiering later in 2022, and the book will be out in January 2022 with Verve Poetry Press. And I thought I would share one of the stories, one of the characters from this show. Love the Sinner is a modern retelling of the stories of the 7 deadly sins. It sets them as characters in a contemporary Scottish cityscape and looks at themes of human frailty, anxiety and judgment, but also love and resilience and the power of community in fragmented times. I thought I would introduce the character of Sloth, who is the hero of the story, if you like. I thought I'd read the little introduction to her character and then go into the full poem itself. So this is Sloth from Love the Sinner. I hope you enjoy it. We meet Sloth. Lofty buildings line the river housing our hero. On the heaven-scraping floor of one draughty city high-rise, windows not quite sealed at the sides, a queen amongst crumbs, seeking solace in bed sheets. Sloth pulls the blanket over her head and says no thanks to the rain. Snowflake by name, snowflake by nature, Sloth crowns herself the victor of stress and stagnation. Sloth chose not to vote, chose to idolize Netflix, surrendered independence to spend her late 20s sheltered by parents, harbouring the apathy of decades of wasted energy. She stubbornly parades her failure. Inside her quilted fort, she sits atop her garbage throne, her phone screen shining bright North Star, directing her to worlds less static, more visceral, less lonely. Ignoring the sounds of life outside, Sloth welcomes a gradual slide into sleep. Fell asleep watching Friends again. Saw Ross Geller's face in my dreams again. Woke up weighted with dread again. Don't have the strength to face the day again. I carried Russell Brand's book in my backpack for days, thumbed it fast till my fingers turned black and the edges got frayed. You remember the one, his political one, a Bible to guide movement, now acting as my doorstop. But at the time, my friends and I, we all bought it. And I know he's a pain, but something in his words spoke to me. Seemed to coax some secret unspoken from me, seemed to reach to a part I did not know, and he made me feel that bit less alone, you see. Because I try to watch the news, but I don't understand the words they say. I don't know who they speak for, but they do not speak for me. I would choose to lose myself in rom-coms over House of Commons jargon, but I am told that's not useful. Russell was preaching not to vote, and I thought that seemed excessive, so when it came to the election, I marked the X in the box kept for the Animal Welfare Collective. It made sense. That's what I think's important. But the man next to me, he stared at me dead, he openly taunted, till he turned Labour red in the face, blamed me for the downfall of our modern politics. It's young folk like you, he said. Caught up in your pin-ups, fake disillusion, go do something then. Don't preach revolution then not follow through. When we fought for this, we gave you this, so aim higher than your commercial messiah. Go on then and tell me, what do you want? My mind is blank, but my hands ball in fists. They say us millennials are taking the piss. I watch this structure where I don't seem to fit. I don't know what I want, but I don't want this. I feel the need to apologise all the time. But I don't quite know what for. Seems the fact I was born at the time I was born is enough to draw scorn like breath. So shame at me, so blame me. I've heard it all before, like how today's youth do not have the vigour to fight a war. Well, I don't know if that's a bad thing. Perhaps we've just seen sense. But instead, we have ourselves labelled complacent. No, I want to act, to get up, to find movement. I feel it itch in my palms like the fervour of Ennio, but it's empty avidity. Because I feel like I'm wading daily through misery. Instagram's crippling. Rent is skyrocketing. Graduates spend their days working in cafes because there are no jobs. The climate is dying, bombs terrifying, the people are starving, and all the while our government is just laughing. See, everything's done. And I am so little and it is so late, and I am happy just here with my bed and my crisps. We cannot make a difference. And apathy's bliss. The days stretch long and it's pointless to try. I feel life seems brighter when I close my eyes. Tell me I'm lazy, tell me what to do. I don't know where to go, but I won't follow you. Then sometimes, on those 3 a.m. sleepless nights, I feel it stir. That thing, that something, that sung thing, that primal thing that feels ancient, that feels too big for my modern language to speak, but it's there, like it's always been there. It is deep. It's there in this city sense of community, but it's a force. Propelling disciples to follow their leaders, the Greeks being swelled into riot. It's there. I know it's there. It must be there. I just don't know where to find it. Fell asleep watching Friends again. Saw Ross Geller's face in my dreams again. Woke up, waited with dread again. Don't have the strength to face the day. Thank you so much for listening. That was Sloth from Love the Sinner. As I say, the book will be out in January 2022, ready to pre-order soon from Verve Poetry Press. But thank you so much for listening today, and thank you again for having me as part of Tam'S Sunday Club. I hope you've enjoyed listening to poetry, excerpts from #Hypocrisy, Love the Sinner, and some COVID pick-me-ups in the middle of that. Enjoy the rest of your days. Thank you again. I have been Imogen Stirling, and I appreciate you listening. Okay, bye.